Greetings YouTube, my name's James Laurie. I run a paid Wikipedia editing operation called Wikinative. Been doing it for about 5.5 years. And one question that pops up quite a lot in this line of business is, am I notable enough for a Wikipedia entry, or is my company notable enough for a Wikipedia entry? Now, first thing to remember is because Wikipedia is both a general encyclopedia, like say the Encyclopedia Britannica. Here we are, that's a 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica, and as you can see in there, we've got articles on every subject from Melbourne to metaphysics. But Wikipedia also doubles up as your more kind of subject-specific encyclopedia, like the ones that might be in your doctor's office, or those ones that lawyers have in their chambers. So Wikipedia can also be something like this, your more kind of specific to its subject area encyclopedia. So, starting with general notability, it's probably worth saying that there is no alternative notability for criteria for companies. I know there has been times in the past where they've kind of suggested the idea, well, if it's a publicly listed company, then there's some public interest there and it should automatically have a Wikipedia article. But what it really boils down to, you see, is quality control of the encyclopedia. The encyclopedia entry on Wikipedia is only going to be readable, it's only going to be decent if it has good quality sources, because we don't publish original research on Wikipedia. So in a nutshell, general notability is significant coverage, i.e. not just a passing mention or a byline, but actually, a few paragraphs or a chapter if it's a book, or, preferably a whole feature. Significant coverage published in independent sources, and by independent I mean actually independent from your organization, i.e. not your blog, your website, your Twitter feed. And also those sources need to be reliable as well. And by reliable, what they really mean is the source in question that you're using to verify notability, that source has to have a reputation for good editorial standards. You can actually view a list of Wikipedia's go-to sources by putting WP:/P into Wikipedia's search bar. That will take you to a list of perennially reliable sources. And on there, you'll see sources like the New York Times, the Financial Times, Reuters, BBC. Those are generally the kind of sources that we would use for a business or an organization. The sources don't necessarily need to be online. Pre-internet sources are acceptable. Basically, what you need to have is, 2 or 3, 4 sources. You need to have enough coverage to be able to produce, a reasonably coherent encyclopedia entry that reads well, that's maybe between 300 and 400 words. If you start citing, kind of press releases that have just been, rehashed by journalists, or mentions, bylines in articles that are about other people, you're going to end up with quite a listy Wikipedia entry that doesn't really flow and really can't stand on its own 2 feet as an encyclopedia entry. So I really think about general notability as a form of quality control, really, because without decent sources, it's not going to be a very good encyclopedia. Moving on to subject-specific notability. Now, this one doesn't apply to companies. So if you know, if you've tuned in because you're interested in making a Wikipedia page about your company, your organization, then this isn't going to be of any interest to you. Like and subscribe, go away. Subject-specific notability applies to, well, I apply it to living subjects because it's mostly companies and biographies about living people that I do. I would like to think of myself as somebody who specialises more in biographies of living subjects. I prefer to write about people than I do about organisations, unless, they are a particularly interesting organisation that has, good press coverage, high quality sources stemming back, 15, 20 years. But subject specific notability is when a subject may not have general notability, may not have a lot of coverage in the mainstream press, but might have multiple film credits. If you're an artist and you've got your work exhibited in multiple major galleries, then you might be notable to your specific subject area. Or if you're an elected official at national or international level, or a university professor, not a high school professor, a university professor, then you too might be notable. We would probably also look at things if I was writing about a university lecture, and I write about a lot of academics. What I would also kind of look for, in addition to sort of major chairs held, I'd also probably look at the publishing record. So I would usually look up the subject on WorldCat or the author on WorldCat, and just to see if they've, had works published on multiple major publishing houses, and if their work appears in multiple libraries. That's also another kind of indicator of subject specific notability. What it doesn't include is things like if you've just published an ebook on Amazon and it's not in any libraries or anything like that. That's not going to meet the criteria for subject specific notability. The main thing to remember though is when you're making a Wikipedia entry, actually it really helps to keep the reader in mind. It's no different to writing for any other platform. You've got to write stuff that your audience has got to read. You're writing for an audience. So really, you want to make sure that there's enough actually been written out there, enough been written by journalists to actually, when it's rendered down from journalistic, creative non-fiction kind of writing into a kind of standard English encyclopedic prose, is there going to really be enough source material there to produce, a 300-400 word article? Is the article gonna, is it gonna sing? Is it gonna grab Wikipedia's readers' attention? And also, is the article going to facilitate the rabbit hole effect? What articles are you linking to as well? And finally, there is one other thing to consider when considering whether a subject's notable enough for Wikipedia. And this isn't an official notability requirement, but if other Wikipedia pages link to that subject, if the subject that you want to write about is already mentioned on Wikipedia several times, then that's a good sign that the subject belongs on there. If there's no mention of the subject on Wikipedia already, then you're going to be uploading what is basically an orphan page. So it's a tree falling in a forest sort of situation. But yeah, that just about wraps it up really, for notability. There is a lot more I could talk about this subject, but I don't want to kind of bore people. It's quite a lot of resources about this sort of thing over on my blog at wikinative.com. I've also got more blogs on my LinkedIn page. And I do have a Medium as well where I kind of post some longer form blogs as well, but I haven't been doing much of that lately. But yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's pretty much notability. See you next time.